Amin nam la ra mơ hi mi lam tu la hi rabbin alamin na na mơ ne hi mơ khi ya min di no i ya khan ne a bo do ya khan ơi thầy no i tan ni sira tan mui tha ke mơ sira tan la thi no annam ta la him gai ren mang vô phim la le amin.
Friends of Islam, this time the Islamic faith is back before you to share Islamic information. I hope it inspires your activities today. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and activate the bell button notifications so you don't miss the latest news from the Islamic Faith channel. In Southeast Asia, particularly Vietnam, and parts of Cambodia, there is a unique and often intriguing minority group. They are known as the Cham people, or often called the Bani Cham. At first glance, their spiritual life seems very similar to Islam. They fast, pray, invoke the name of Allah, and even use Islamic-sounding terms. However, in terms of their beliefs, they do not fully embrace Islam. This uniqueness did not emerge suddenly. The Cham's historical roots can be traced back to the kingdom of Champa, a large maritime empire that dominated southern Vietnam for centuries. This kingdom was located on an important trade route connecting East Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East. As a result, Champa became a melting pot of diverse cultures, languages, and religions. In its early days, the Cham people were heavily influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism. Traces of this are still visible today through ancient temples and traditional rituals. However, over time, Muslim traders from Arabia, Persia, and the Indonesian archipelago began to arrive and bring Islamic teachings. These teachings did not completely replace the old beliefs, but rather blended with local traditions, forming a new distinctive belief system. From this process, what is now known as Bani Islam or Bani Cham beliefs emerged. In practice, the Bani Cham maintain the concept of a single God and invoke the name of Allah in their prayers.
Amin nam la ra mơ hi mi lam tu la hi rabbin alamin na na mơ ne hi mơ khi ya min di no i ya khan ne a bo do ya khan ơi thầy no i tan ni sira tan mui tha ke mơ sira tan la thi no annam ta la him gai ren mang vô phim la le amin.
They also have specific times for fasting and performing rituals. However, the method and meaning of these prayers differ from the Islam practiced by the majority of Muslims worldwide. In the Bani Cham community, worship is not individualized and obligatory as in Islam. The 5 daily prayers, for example, are not performed by all members of the community. Religious rituals are usually performed only by traditional religious leaders known as Bani leaders or imams. They are considered spiritual representatives of the entire community. The fasting itself does not always follow the strict rules of Ramadan. The timing, duration, and procedures are adapted to local traditions and ancestral beliefs. Furthermore, the Quran is not used as the sole source of teachings, as many elements of old beliefs, myths, and ancestral customs are still preserved. This is the clearest distinction between the Cham and Muslims. Despite the similarities in terms and symbols, their beliefs in religious law differ. Therefore, scholars and researchers agree that the Cham cannot be categorized as Muslims, but rather as adherents of a local religion influenced by Islam. Nevertheless, the Cham identity remains important and deserves respect as part of Southeast Asia's cultural heritage. They are a clear example of how history, trade, and culture can shape a unique faith. Not entirely identical to the religion of origin, but not separate from it either. The story of the Cham reminds us that similarities in rituals do not necessarily mean similarities in beliefs. Behind the seemingly similar fasting and prayer practices lies a long history that has shaped their identity to this day. The Cham have distinct traditions and beliefs from Muslims in general. While superficially similar, their religious practices are unique and heavily influenced by ancestral customs and belief systems that have been passed down through the centuries. One of the most striking differences is seen in the performance of prayer. In the Bani Cham community, people do not observe the 5 daily prayers as required by Islam. They only perform Friday prayers and even then, they are not obligated individually. The obligation to perform prayers is considered delegated to an imam or traditional religious leader. This means that when the imam performs prayers, he is believed to represent the entire Bani Cham community before God. This concept of representative worship differs significantly from Islamic teachings, which emphasize the personal responsibility of each individual. Another difference is evident in the practice of fasting. While Muslims fast for the full 30 days of Ramadan, the Bani Cham fast for only 15 days. This fasting is done at specific times according to their traditional calendar, not according to the full Hijri calendar. The purpose of fasting for the Bani Cham is not solely a religious obligation, but rather a ritual of self-purification and respect for ancestral traditions. When it comes to reciting the Quran, the Bani Cham also have their own unique characteristics. The holy verses are recited in a dialect and pronunciation that differs from the Quranic recitation widely known throughout the Islamic world. This difference arises because the transmission of teachings took place orally over generations, without standard tajweed as in Islamic tradition. In fact, not all community members read the Quran. This is usually reserved for certain religious leaders. The central figure in the spiritual life of the Bani Cham is the religious leader known as Mum. The Mum is not only the prayer leader, but also the traditional leader, the guardian of tradition, and a highly respected spiritual figure. He is considered to possess special spiritual powers, acting as an intermediary between humans, ancestors, and God. Every major ritual, from communal prayers, fasting, and even the determination of holy days, must go through the Mum. His position is so important that his words have a significant influence on the social life of the community. Furthermore, the Bani Cham have a unique tradition of visiting graves. During the pilgrimage, they do not stand or sit as is common among Muslims. Instead, they perform the ritual by prostrating themselves over the grave, symbolizing total submission, deep respect, and spiritual union with the spirits of their ancestors. This tradition reflects the strong animist and ancestral reverence inherent in the Bani Cham faith. These practices demonstrate that the Bani Cham religion is not Islam in the strict sense of Islamic law and creed, but rather a local religion influenced by Islam. They adopted some Islamic symbols, terms, and rituals, and blended them with ancient beliefs that existed long before Islam arrived. The Bani Cham are proof that a long history, cultural isolation, and adaptation can give rise to a unique religious identity. They are not fully integrated into Islam, but they are not free from its influence either. Herein lies the uniqueness and complexity of the Bani Cham, a community that fasts and prays like Muslims, but follows a different path of belief. The Bani Cham Muslim community in Vietnam has assimilated Islamic teachings with their local traditions, creating a unique and, to some, unconventional form of Islam. The Islam practiced by this group differs significantly from traditional Sunni Islam, strongly influenced by local culture and the traditions of their ancestors. In Vietnam, the majority of the Cham people originally practiced Brahmanism, a religion derived from Hinduism. Today, about 1/3 of the Cham population claims to be Muslim. Muslims from this group are known as Bani Islam. Bani Islam is the result of a process of assimilation and adaptation of Islamic teachings into local Cham culture and traditions, resulting in a distinctive and distinct form of Islam. The most prominent characteristic of Bani Islam is the strong influence of Brahmanism, the Hindu religion that was once dominant in the region. This is evident in the clothing of Bani religious leaders, which is predominantly white and red, inspired by the attire of Brahmanical priests. Furthermore, they wear 3 small bags symbolizing Allah, Muhammad, and Abraham, a distinctive mark of Bani religious leaders. Beyond symbolism, the influence of Brahmanism is also evident in ritual practices. They perform a number of ceremonies similar to Hindu rituals, such as ancestor worship and offering food at the mosque on certain occasions, including the day they call the Feast of the Dead. The Bani people go to graves to worship their ancestors. However, in Islam, Muslims prostrate themselves solely to Allah. Islam prohibits all forms of worship other than Allah. Among the 5 pillars of Islam, the first obligation of a Muslim is the declaration of faith, Shahada. The Shahada is a Muslim's confession of faith in Allah as the only God worthy of worship, and in Muhammad as the final prophet sent by Allah. The Shahada states, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." This means, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Islam teaches that Allah is the sole creator. He has no partners, is not like any of his creatures, and cannot be equated with anyone. In Islam, humans are God's creations, not part of the divine being. Equating humans or ancestors with Allah is considered a violation of the oneness and uniqueness of God, as affirmed in the Quran. The second obligation of Muslims is the 5 daily prayers. The 5 daily prayers are the primary form of worship and a means of direct communication between a Muslim and Allah. Through prayer, Muslims remember Allah, seek guidance, ask for forgiveness, and strengthen their faith in Him. During the holy month of Ramadan, the time to break the fast arrives, marked by the sounding of the drum, bidug, in accordance with a special ritual of the Cham. Their fasting practices differ significantly from those of the Muslim community in general. They are permitted to smoke before breaking their fast, and are even permitted to break their fast before the sun has completely set. To create the illusion of nighttime, they close doors and windows and eat indoors. This practice reflects that fasting in the Bani Cham tradition is more of a symbolic ritual rather than a strict adherence to the time regulations stipulated in Islamic law. In Islam, there are 5 pillars of Islam that serve as the main foundation of faith and worship. The 4th obligation of Muslims is to pay zakat. Zakat is the obligation to allocate a portion of one's wealth and give it to those who deserve it, such as the poor, orphans, widows, the indebted, and for various other charitable purposes. Unlike other religious practices, the obligation of zakat is one of the pillars of Islam that is still respected and practiced by some Bani Cham, although the procedures and understanding do not always align with Islamic stipulations. The 5th obligation of Muslims is to perform the Hajj pilgrimage. The Hajj is a pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia that is obligatory for all Muslims who are physically and financially able to perform at least once in their lifetime. This pilgrimage involves a series of rituals, including circumambulating the Kaaba. However, for the Bani Muslim community, the Hajj is almost never performed. This is due to various factors, including limited access, economic conditions, and differences in religious understanding. As a result, the Hajj is one of the most striking differences between Bani Islam and Islam in general. Some Cham people still hold beliefs mixed with Hinduism. In some regions, they pray to Allah on sacred rocky hills, such as those around Nintuan. These places are not simply places of worship, but also spiritual spaces believed to have a strong connection to ancestors and the forces of nature. This practice reflects how the teachings of monotheism, Tawheed, met and blended with ancient traditions that existed long before Islam was known. It is important to understand that the process of Islamization among the Bani Cham did not occur instantly. Islam did not come through conquest or coercion, but rather through trade, marriage, and cultural connections. This process unfolded slowly and faced many challenges, ranging from political conflict and the collapse of the Champa kingdom to social and geographical isolation that separated them from centers of Islamic learning. Under these conditions, the Islamic teachings that reached the Cham people were not always complete. Many religious practices were passed down orally from generation to generation, mixed with ancestral customs and beliefs. As a result, the Islam that developed among the Cham took on a distinctive form, distinct from the Islam that developed in the Middle East or the Indonesian archipelago. Nevertheless, for many Cham, Islam remains an important part of their identity. They recognize the Prophet Muhammad, invoke the name of Allah in their prayers, and believe in the existence of one God, even though their religious understanding and practices do not always align completely with Islamic law. In daily life, tradition and religion coexist. Traditional ceremonies, respect for ancestors, and local rituals remain part of the Cham cultural identity. For them, preserving tradition is not a rejection of religion, but rather a way of preserving the historical heritage that has shaped their community for centuries. Entering the modern era, changes slowly began to appear. Many scholars and preachers from various countries came to the Bani Cham region to continue the Islamic dawah, Islamic outreach. They sought to foster dialogue, open educational spaces, and help the community learn Islamic teachings more comprehensively and deeply, without erasing their long-held cultural identity. This process was not always easy. It required time, patience, and a wise approach. However, for some of the younger generation of Bani Cham, the arrival of modern Islamic education opened a new path. Between maintaining ancestral traditions and understanding Islam as taught in the Quran and Sunnah. The story of the Bani Cham is a portrait of a community's long journey in searching for the meaning of faith, identity, and cultural heritage. It is a story of the intersection of a major religion with local traditions, which continues to unfold and evolve to this day. Friends of the Islamic faith, the Qurans owned by some Bani Cham people, are generally copies of excerpts in Arabic that have been passed down for centuries. These texts are recited by religious leaders during sermons and certain rituals. However, in many cases, religious leaders do not fully understand the meaning of the verses read. These recitations function more as sacred symbols than as sources of understanding. This situation deviates from the basic principles of Islam, which emphasize the importance of reading, understanding, and practicing the Quran in daily life. In Islam, the Quran is not merely a ritual recitation, but rather a guide to life whose meaning every Muslim must learn according to their ability. Furthermore, Bani Muslims also incorporate various symbols of other cultures into their prayer spaces. In some mosques, the walls are decorated with yin and yang symbols, as well as images of Chinese dragons standing side by side with the words Allah and Muhammad. Even the swastika symbol, derived from Hindu tradition, can be found adorning the headdresses of religious leaders. The use of these symbols certainly contradicts Islamic teachings, which reject the mixing of beliefs and prohibit the use of religious symbols from other religions in the context of worship. However, for the Bani Cham people, these symbols are not always understood as symbols of other religious beliefs, but rather as cultural and historical heritage. The assimilation of these symbols is inseparable from the history of the Champa kingdom, which has long been a crossroads of major civilizations: India, China, Cambodia, and Vietnam. This long encounter with various cultures has shaped the Cham people's perspective on religion and tradition. In social life, the Bani Cham people also maintain a matrilineal kinship system, where descent is traced through the mother's side. This system is maintained as a custom inherited from their ancestors, although it does not align with the social system recognized in Islam. For the Bani Cham, tradition often takes precedence over religion. However, this tradition does not completely reject Islam. On the contrary, Islam is accepted and practiced as long as it can coexist with the customs and traditions that have been deeply rooted in their lives for centuries. Dear friends of the Islamic faith, in addition to the Bani Cham group, known for their syncretic yet similar religious practices, there is another community within the Cham people who truly embrace Islam, the Sunni Muslim Cham. They practice Islamic teachings based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and adhere to the Islamic jurisprudence schools recognized in mainstream Islamic tradition. Their existence demonstrates that the Cham cannot be viewed as a single group with a unified belief system. Sunni Cham Muslims practice the 5 pillars of Islam like other Muslims, reciting the Shahada, performing the 5 daily prayers, fasting during Ramadan, paying zakat, and performing the Hajj pilgrimage for those who can afford it. They also have mosques, Islamic educational institutions, religious teachers, and a tradition of religious study that serves as a center for fostering the faith of the younger generation. In their daily lives, they strive to apply the principles of halal, permissible, and haram, forbidden, maintain good morals, and make Islam the primary guideline for building their families and communities. However, amidst this diversity, Muslims need to be discerning, cautious, and knowledgeable in understanding the differences between Cham Bani and Sunni Cham Muslims. The similarities in terms, symbols, and some external practices often lead some lay Muslims to assume that Cham Bani is part of Islam, or even to consider Cham Bani teachings as a separate school of thought within Islam. However, this is not the case. If these differences are not properly understood, serious misunderstandings can arise. A Muslim may be attracted to Chambani practices because they observe fasting, prayer, and the mention of Allah's name, and then gradually assume that these practices are equivalent to Islamic teachings. In the long run, this has the potential to blur the line between Islamic teachings derived from the Quran and Sunnah and syncretic religious traditions. Therefore, it is important to emphasize that the standard of truth in Islam is not symbolic similarity, but rather conformity to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. A practice cannot be considered part of Islam simply because it uses Arabic terms, mentions the name of Allah, or has rituals that superficially resemble Islamic worship. The key criterion is whether the practice aligns with the guidance of the Prophet, peace be upon him. This cautious attitude does not mean we should be hostile or demeaning to the Chambani community. Rather, we must respect them as fellow human beings and as a community with a unique history and cultural identity. However, respect does not mean mixing beliefs. Respecting differences requires clarifying the boundaries. What is Islamic and what is non-Islamic tradition? For Muslims, especially the younger generation who receive much of their information from social media, it is crucial to deepen their basic understanding of faith and worship. With a strong foundation of knowledge, one will not be easily influenced by narratives that conflate various belief systems in the name of tolerance or diversity. Tolerance does not mean equating all teachings, but rather respecting differences while remaining steadfast in one's own beliefs. On the other hand, the existence of Sunni Cham Muslims also serves as proof that Islam can grow and develop amidst diverse cultures without losing its fundamental principles. They maintain their Cham ethnic identity while upholding their Islamic identity. This demonstrates that becoming Muslim does not mean losing one's cultural identity, as long as that culture does not conflict with Islamic teachings. Therefore, an important message to emphasize is, do not generalize the entire Cham people as not Muslim, and do not assume that everything labeled Cham automatically conforms to Islamic teachings. There are Cham Bani communities with syncretic belief systems, and there are also Sunni Cham Muslims who are part of the Muslim community. With this clear and balanced understanding, Muslims can avoid misunderstandings, maintain the purity of their faith, and at the same time respect the diversity of human culture and history. In daily life, the Cham Bani community generally coexists with various other groups, including Sunni Muslim Cham, adherents of other religions, and the majority ethnic communities in the regions where they reside. This relationship has been formed through a long history, in which religious diversity has long been a recognized reality. In many areas, relations between the Cham Bani and their surrounding communities tend to be peaceful and cooperative. They live in close proximity, engage in shared economic activities, visit each other at family gatherings, and collaborate on community affairs such as agriculture, trade, and traditional ceremonies. In this context, differences in belief rarely become a major barrier to daily social interaction. For local people, the Cham Bani are often viewed as part of the Cham ethnic community rather than being judged solely by their religious teachings. Cultural identity often serves as a key bridge uniting them with other groups. Shared language, customs, and ancestral traditions create a strong sense of community despite differences in religious practices. However, this relatively peaceful relationship is not without challenges. In some situations, differences of opinion arise between the Cham Bani and the Sunni Cham Muslims, particularly regarding religious status and religious practices. Some Sunni Cham Muslims view the Cham Bani teachings as incompatible with Islam, while the Cham Bani often view their practices as a legitimate ancestral heritage worthy of preservation. These differences sometimes lead to mild tensions, such as arguments, mutual distancing, or disagreements over certain rituals. However, open conflict in the form of violence is relatively rare. This is due to strong social norms that emphasize harmony and respect for fellow community members. In many cases, both groups choose to avoid direct confrontation and focus on their own affairs. The Sunni Cham Muslims practice their religion according to Islamic teachings, while the Cham Bani maintain their own rituals. As long as neither party imposes its beliefs, social relations remain normal. The social interactions between the Cham Bani and their surrounding communities can be seen in various aspects of life. Economically, they often trade in the same markets, work in the same fields, or engage in interdependent business networks. These working relationships create practical bonds that strengthen tolerance. Socially and culturally, they attend each other's weddings, funerals, and traditional celebrations. Although their religious rituals differ, attendance remains a form of respect. This demonstrates that social solidarity is often stronger than theological differences. In neighborhood life, relationships are usually simple and pragmatic, greeting each other, helping each other in times of difficulty, and working together in community service activities. These interactions foster a sense of togetherness that transcends differences in belief. Conversely, in the modern context, the presence of social media, the internet, and global dawah, Islamic outreach, have begun to exert new influence. Some Chambani, especially the younger generation, are becoming acquainted with Sunni Islam through online media. This sometimes raises internal questions about their own beliefs, and in some cases, leads individuals to convert to Orthodox Islam. This process can give rise to new dynamics in social relations, such as differences in views between older and younger generations within the Chambani community itself. However, these changes generally occur gradually and individually, rather than in the form of a confrontational mass movement. Overall, the Chambani's relationship with their surroundings can be described as relatively peaceful, pragmatic, and based on social cohesion, despite fundamental differences in belief. This coexistence demonstrates that in everyday practice, people often find ways to live together despite differing spiritual views. One aspect that Muslims often find surprising when studying Chambani religious practices is the permissibility of smoking while fasting. In Orthodox Sunni Islam, smoking while fasting is clearly understood to invalidate the fast because it involves intentionally taking something into the body. However, in the Chambani tradition, the understanding of fasting has a different meaning, and therefore the rules that accompany it are not the same as in Islam. This difference stems from the Chambani's understanding of fasting itself. In Sunni Islam, fasting is an act of worship with clear stipulations. Abstaining from food, drink, sexual intercourse, and other things that invalidate the fast from dawn to sunset, with the intention of performing it for the sake of Allah. Fasting is also an individual obligation for every qualified Muslim. In contrast, in the Chambani tradition, fasting is not understood as an individual obligation that must be carried out by all members of the community. Fasting is viewed more as a symbolic and spiritual ritual, primarily performed by religious leaders or spiritual figures. For the general public, fasting is often understood simply as a form of respect for tradition, rather than as an obligatory act of worship with strict Islamic jurisprudence, fiqh. Because this understanding of fasting is symbolic, restrictions on eating, drinking, or smoking are not always considered to invalidate the fast. Within the Chambani framework, the essence of fasting lies not in total physical restraint, but rather in engaging in a series of rituals in adherence to ancestral traditions. Furthermore, in many traditional cultures, smoking has social and ritual significance. Cigarettes or tobacco are often used in traditional ceremonies as a means of bonding or as part of symbolic offerings. When this custom intersects with the syncretic concept of fasting, there is no specific prohibition against smoking. This phenomenon demonstrates that fasting in the Chambani is not a direct equivalent of the Ramadan fast in Sunni Islam, despite the use of the term fast and external similarities. This similarity in terms often leads to misunderstandings, as if the Chambani are observing an Islamic fast, when in fact they are distinct. From an Islamic perspective, practices such as smoking during fasting are a strong indicator that the Chambani worship system is not based on the Quran and Sunnah, but rather on local traditions mixed with Islamic elements. This emphasizes that the Chambani cannot be categorized as part of Orthodox Islam. However, it is important to place this phenomenon in a fair context. The Chambani are not violating Islamic rules, as they do not use Islam as the primary legal reference in their worship. They practice their own belief system, which developed through a long history of syncretism. For Muslims, this phenomenon serves as an important lesson about the importance of correctly understanding the definition of worship in Islam. Fasting in Islam is not simply a tradition, but an act of worship with detailed guidelines. Without a solid understanding, one might assume that all practices referred to as fasting in various cultures are the same as Islamic fasting, when in fact their essence is very different. The phenomenon of the Chambani's permissibility of smoking during fasting also reinforces the conclusion that outward similarities do not necessarily indicate a similarity in essence. There is a fundamental difference between symbol and substance. The Chambani may use the terms fasting, prayer, and Allah, but their meanings and practices are shaped by their own cultural framework. By understanding this, we can more clearly distinguish between fasting as worship in Sunni Islam, which is obligatory, individual, and subject to strict rules. Fasting as ritual in the Chambani, which is symbolic, collective, and not bound by Islamic fiqh law. This clear understanding helps us avoid misunderstandings and maintain respect for other communities without interfering with their beliefs. The Chambani community in particular is a reflection of a long and complex historical journey. They are not simply a different community, but the result of a confluence of various civilizations, cultures, and belief systems over centuries. The Chambani do indeed share many elements that appear similar to Islam. They recognize the name of Allah, mention the Prophet Muhammad, have fasting rituals, and perform specific prayers. However, beneath these similarities lie fundamental differences in how they understand religion, practice worship, and use its teachings as a guide for their lives. The Chambani belief system is syncretic, a blend of Islamic elements, local traditions, Hindu-Buddhist heritage, and ancestral beliefs. On the other hand, we must also emphasize that not all Cham people are Chambani. There are Sunni Muslim Cham communities that truly practice Islam in its entirety, based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. They perform the 5 daily prayers, fast the entire month of Ramadan, pay zakat, and make Islam their daily guide. They are part of the global Muslim community while maintaining their Cham ethnic identity. Therefore, the narrative, they pray and fast but are not Muslim, is only appropriate if directed specifically at the Chambani community, not the entire Cham people. Such a generalization is potentially misleading and obscures a much more diverse reality. From this video, we can draw several important lessons. First, that similar symbols and terms do not necessarily mean similar essence. Second, that a strong, scientifically based understanding of religion is crucial to prevent us from easily mixing teachings. Third, that respecting differences does not mean equating all beliefs, but rather acknowledging their existence while remaining steadfast in our respective principles. Hopefully, this discussion helps us view the Chambani phenomenon with a clearer, fairer, and more balanced perspective. This is not intended to be judgmental or demeaning, but rather to understand how history, culture, and religion interact to shape a community's identity. With this understanding, we can become wiser audiences, more knowledgeable people, and people who appreciate diversity more, without losing clarity about what we believe. Friends of the Islamic faith who are blessed by Allah, I hope this video is useful, and see you in our next video.